welcome to the garden. Today I've sifted one more batch of finished compost from the pile. I've also prepped it for winter with a little bit of a secret weapon. These are just dried leaves, so they don't actually freeze together. We'll be able to dig down here even in the middle of winter when the rest of the pile's frozen. So I'll add my food scraps as low as I possibly can. I'll dig all the way to the bottom and then rebury them with these leaves. Besides insulating the compost, these provide an excellent carbon source to balance out those food scraps. They're also going to introduce a lot of air, so they keep the pile aerobic. They'll even absorb a little bit of extra moisture. So the dried leaves actually serve several different purposes. Down towards the bottom, my pile is really wet and kind of dense. It's very heavy and compact. So to combat that, we're actually going to add a whole bunch of dried leaves. When the whole pile is frozen solid, this will actually remain nice and light. So we'll be able to move aside some of our leaves and then add fresh material to the compost. It takes maybe 2 or 3 weeks to fill this thing up. So we actually only empty it maybe 5 or 6 times. And this is all our nitrogen-rich coffee grounds, eggshells, banana peels. These kitchen scraps provide most of the nutrients that end up on the garden. But it is really important to add those dried leaves. You've got to have a good carbon source. If you want to learn more about how to feed your compost a balanced diet, you can click on this link right over here. It's not going to break down until next spring, but we'll already have that carbon there, so when everything thaws, it'll start to break down immediately. I sift my compost for a few different reasons. First of all, it incorporates a bunch of air into the pile to really keep it aerobic. All this leftover material, I don't like to throw directly on the garden. So by sifting it, we're only going to get that nice finished compost at the end. You really shouldn't be able to recognize anything in here. There are a few exceptions, like little fragments of eggshell. Those are recognizable, but those will break down over time. You might see little sticks and grass clippings, even some insects like millipedes I find. But that's all really great beneficial stuff for the garden. Even though it's really late in the season, we got a huge batch of sifted compost. So now I'm just gonna add a whole bunch more leaves. We'll add all our unfinished material back onto the pile and just kind of fluff it in with some of those dried leaves. So on this side, we basically have nothing but dried leaves. And the leaves will compress over time, but we'll be able to get in there with the shovel and lift them up so that we can add some new food scraps and then just recover them. But the pile is pretty much ready for winter. We'll be able to add food scraps to this half and just let this half break down and harvest next spring. You could add this material straight into your garden, and it will continue to break down, but I like to let it break down in the compost pile, all the way until it's this beautiful, fine, sifted, finished material. It's really crawling with life and just packed with nutrients. There's even frost patterns on the inside. That's really cool. It's a completely different pattern. They're more like little feathers, little round brush strokes almost. So in this tumbler here, I have dried leaves. This is going to be fuel for next summer. So I like to save them up in the autumn. That way I can use these again next year. And in this bin is just 100% sifted compost. We could add this to the garden right now, but you could maybe leach out some of those nutrients over the winter. So I'm going to wait till next spring when we really need it. So I hope you give this a go, preparing your compost pile to accept new materials all winter. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.